Hello and welcome back to the channel, people. Glad to see you returning. If you're new here, welcome for definite. Good to get a great new subscriber base, and it's growing all the time, so welcome on board. Please subscribe if you're just bopping in to see what this is all about and this madman here ranting and raving. Now, before I go any further, there is something I'm going to bring up for my 2024 review of this channel and what we were going to do, which was a video some time ago. I did say that we would be going to Chicago late May, early June. Well, some personal stuff's come along which has basically stopped us from doing this, and that is the sale of this lodge on my left hand side. We have a buyer for it, and obviously those buyers could want to come in to the lodge at any time. That we cannot just shoot over to Chicago and do Route 66 as per promised for this channel, or even for myself to enjoy, because it's a bad timing thing. It could be 2 to 3 months before we have to get out, and I don't want to be stuck in America for 16 days when I've got paperwork to sign here and a move to happen. So what we've decided on that score is that we are going back to Route 66 and doing that half. In fact, we might even do all of it again. That's 2 years away, but 2 years will zoom by, folks. If I'm still on the planet in 2 years, we are going back. And what that will mean is that that will be the 100 years for Route 66. I apologise deeply for cancelling the Route 66 to Chicago over to Texas story. So, sorry folks, it ain't gonna happen. Let's move on. Okay, this brings us now to this 543210 format thing I've done. 5 years I've been into EVs. That 5 years has shot by. I don't even know where the 5 years has gone, for Christ's sake. Blimey, 5 years ago, I was still in full-time employment. 5 years ago, just over, yes, it would have been 5 years this month when I sold my last big V8 American muscle car. That was a 5-litre GT in black, the new shape, or the newish shape, the first of that new shape. Left-hand drive, full American spec, weren't a right-hand drive rubbish one, even had the red lights at the back and everything. Anyway, since then, with no regrets, I have electric vehicles, and I've had 4. 2 I've still got now. One I'm sitting in, you know this, the Tesla, and the little red one, which is in front of me now, the wife's little Seat Me. So we've still got 2, but we've had 4 overall. So I think my knowledge base, and they've all been different, my knowledge base of ownership for 4 EVs, and the electric van will be the 5th, hopefully coming up very, very soon, it gives me the right, I would say, of passage. Doing, I would say roughly, I'm not far off 50,000 miles now of pure EV motoring. So, and I know that's nothing in comparison to a lot of people out there, which I think is great, and it goes to prove that how sweet these things are, and that I would never go back to fossil. Let's move on. Now, the 4 cars I've actually owned, they've all been mentioned on this channel. In fact, my son's had a very similar car to me, and again, I've mentioned it in 1 or 2 posts before. My first EV was a Nissan Leaf, a 24 kilowatt hour Nissan Leaf. So it had about 21 usable in the battery pack. It was on 12 bars. It was pretty much identical to what you see here. This is the American spec, but this is exactly the same as mine. Had the same alloy wheels, the silver door handles, electric mirrors, heated and fold in. Let me think about this. Bose system there in the trunk. Great sound system. Sat nav as standard, with the Tecna, came with heated seats front and back. Full leather inside, of course. Very, very easy to drive. The only real thing I'd say bad about the Nissan Leaf is that you went above 60, 65 mile an hour and you were eating into that electricity. That battery pack was great around town, don't get me wrong, and the regen was superb for an early, well, pioneer of EVs. The difference is you got down the motorway, you followed the normal ICE traffic at 65, 70, 75, 80, and I know we shouldn't do any more than 70, but everyone does, they flow the traffic. And you start hitting that 70 plus, definitely, and it used to go down real quick off that gauge. You could see the battery level dropping rapidly. Could I knock that Nissan Leaf for anything? No, I could not. It was a great first EV, and even today, apart from it having CHAdeMO charging system, you could get one that you just wanted to do a bit of grocery getting in, or taking the kids to school, or commuting 20 mile either way. An early Nissan Leaf for around 5 to 6 grand is a great little investment, especially if you go for the top of the range one, which I had. Great car, I cannot knock that. So that was my very, very first EV. Owned that for a year, Did about 12 to 14,000 in that over the year. Never let me down, never spent a penny on parts. So that Nissan Leaf was a great first EV. Now this next one, BMW i3. This is the one that cost me a lot more money. But again, it was one of those quite specialist cars. But at the time when I bought this 4 years ago, or just under 4 years, 3.5, 4 years ago, the i3 was still very much a Marmite car, and that is still the same now, but it has got a massive fan base. The i3 is a supercar. I mean, it will go down in the history books, along with the Nissan Leaf being the first, as a classic electric car. Now, all you ICE non-believers out there looking at me saying there's not going to be such things as classic cars, of course there will. Electric cars will be the classic cars. The ones where I'm driving now in 10 years, and they'll still be on the road, and even if they're not, they'll have the battery replaced, if that's your thing about every EV on the road as a battery replacement. They'll be replaced. So yes, they will become future classics. So the ICE cars that are here today will just melt away. They're ICE. See what I did there? They will melt away into oblivion. Now the i3, there was variants, you know. You could get the Rex version, which was the range extender, a little tiny 0.6 litre engine in the back. That's the one I went for. Now, I purely went for that vehicle instead of just the battery one, because at the time, I couldn't find a low mileage, battery only i3 that suited me. The one I bought was mint, absolutely brilliant condition, quite lowish mileage. Everything worked on it. It was fully loaded apart from the better sound system that was available. It had the sunroof, the twin sunroof thing and everything else. And it's on this channel. In fact, it's here, look. Yep. That one there. I put loads of time and effort into that i3. I loved it. And if you want to go and watch that, please do. And there's even one here. Yep, that's all about parts for i3 and accessories. So go and check that one out, because again, that's a great video if you've just bought an i3 and you want to put some accessories on it and some add-ons. Anyway, moving on. So the i3 was the second EV we had, and again I think we did about 18,000 miles in that in the year and a half that we had it, nearly 2 years actually that I had it, and never went wrong. Again, my second EV, nothing ever purchased for it. It went straight through an MOT, no problem. I didn't spend a dime on that car. Oh, tell a lie, I think I had some tyres for it. Yeah, but tyres are tyres, wearables. The reason why we went for the Rex, the range extender, I wanted to get away from fossil fuels completely, but the wife was happier if it had the Rex. She had a very big battery anxiety problem. She hasn't got that now with the Tesla, but she did have with that Rex. It never bothered me, because when we travelled in it, we did do a lot of travelling to the East Coast and back in it on a regular basis. Went down London in it a couple of times, I think, or whatever. It did its miles, and we were never ever sure of finding a charger to use, by the way. And that's when things were very, very cheap as well, before the onslaught of up prices on electricity. But she wanted this Rex as a backup, knowing that if we didn't want to stop, we could get home without stopping at a charger. Well, we only used that Rex once officially, and that was when we were coming back from the East Coast once, and I said, oh look, we can charge up here. It's going to take us 30-40 minutes, we'll stop for a coffee, but we decided, no, let's get home. So we let the battery drain down to its 6 or 8%. The Rex came on, and it got us home at 55-60 mile an hour, all the way back to base. Not a problem at all. Did about 45 mile on the Rex. Very small fuel tank on those range extenders. But if I had one again today, I would not have the Rex. Now, you're asking why? Well, simply because we've come on leaps and bounds. And there is the next i3 came out with a bigger battery anyway, the 42. Now, that was far better. That could just about push 200 mile in the summer if you used it very carefully. Whereas the one I had was good for about 120 in the summer on actual battery power itself, and then you had the Rex for about 50 to 60 mile on top. But no, if I bought one again, it would be a full BEV. I wouldn't look at the Rex anymore. We've come on leaps and bounds with electric cars. Battery technology's got far better. There's more range to pick from now as well for your money. And obviously because of that, better spec cars are out there with better range, etc, etc. So I wouldn't buy the Rex again. I also think it's outdated now because you're using fossil fuel as your backup source. And there really is no need for that now. This is why I'm quite anti-hybrid, because I don't believe they really should be used now. I think there's a lot of good EVs out there that don't really need to be hybrids. They could be full electric because you've got a far better range now on a lot of vehicles. You've got far more charges than we ever had when I started out in EVs. So if I can live with it on a daily basis, and that's when I was working, don't forget, and commuting as well sometimes, no problems, no issues, but I wouldn't buy the Rex. So what happened after the i3? Well, like I say, the i3 cost me nothing. It did exactly what it did said on the can. It took us everywhere we wanted to go with zero issues. So why did I sell it, you may ask? Well, I sold it because I always wanted a Model 3. That takes us on to now. Okay, regards the Model 3, I'm not going to dwell on this. There are loads on my channel, as you can see there, as I'm flipping through them, from reviews to add-ons to extras to why I missed it when it went away, everything. A full year review look on the Model 3 went out at a year, Tesla service, lots and lots, and even the 2-year review in 2022. Same as the red little one I've got in front of me here now. Again, I'm not going to dwell on this because you've seen it many times on this channel. Views like this look, posts like this look. There you go, plenty of them to see. Help yourself on the channel. Now the rest of the mileage has been done on these two cars, never cost us a dime and never ever let us down. The only money we've spent is on electricity. Now we all know that these things in front of me here are costly. All cars are expensive. However, this little red thing here, which has been made since 2013 I believe, maybe sooner. Anyway, this thing here, the petrol version of this was around £12,000 to £13,000 brand new. This Seat Me electric in 2020 when it first came out was nearly £20,000. Yeah, an expensive little car. You got no more than a few more options as standard, like air conditioning and a few bits and bobs, heated mirrors and a heated screen over the petrol. You got the alloys, but all that was not worth anywhere near the extra £7,000. Moving on, a bigger shocker, cost again. This one, my own Tesla. I didn't pay what I'm going to say in a moment for this vehicle. I bought it 3 months old, as you well know. This topped out at an incredible £51,500 retail asking price by Tesla when there was a shortage and a waiting list of around 10 months. So again, cost. Would I pay anywhere near £51,000 for a Model 3 now? No, of course you would not. Back in the day, it was the going price and the waiting lists were there, so people were paying the premiums for them. Same as these now. Would I pay anything near £20,000 for a new one of these? No. I bought this used at just over 10k, a bit of a bargain. So cost has been an issue with electric cars, and these two are perfect examples of that. Let me put this in more of a perspective term for you here. The biggest shocker is not this Tesla, and it's not that thing behind me. The biggest shocker was the BMW i3. Back in 2014, 2013, when they first came out, for a very basic low range EV, they were nearly £40,000. That, my friends, is a lot of money. I paid considerably less than that for my i3, obviously, but it was because it was used with around 28,000 on the clock. I believe we paid 19 for that. But even that at 19 still sounds expensive for what you're actually getting, because an equivalent petrol car with the kind of spec that the i3 had would have been more around the 15, if not even cheaper. And when we had that, that was, I believe, around 6 years old. Now, the not so bad one was the Nissan Leaf. I paid £8,000 for it. Yes, it had lowest mileage for the year of car, but it was the only basic 24 kilowatt hour Leaf. It wasn't any bigger, it wasn't the 30 kilowatt one, which came out at the time when I bought mine. And that was a 2013, and the cost of that at 8k was again expensive, but I did make money on it. So yes, cost is a big one, or was. That's the difference now, because costs now for EVs is far less. They have dropped considerably since I bought that Tesla out front, which can't be bad for consumers and definitely good for anyone who wants to get their first EV, be it new or used, because obviously the used market has also come down. So cost now is not really a problem, but it definitely was when I first had my first EV. Prices were ridiculous. Suicide doors. I like them. The only downer is you cannot open this back one without opening this one first. A bit of a pain. So yeah, to shut it, it's the same. You've got to shut that one first before that one. It was always a minor gripe of mine regarding the doors on the back of the i3. You could not get out the back until someone opened the front door for you. Bit of a bad design flaw, but hey, it made it quirky. But I wish they'd have put a bit more time into those doors. Okay, heat pumps. Heat pumps on EVs all started many years ago. Believe it or not, Nissan was the first that actually did the heat pump on the Nissan Leaf from 2013, near enough across the board, apart from there was one very low budget one which you could buy, the cheapest version, which didn't have it fitted. Heat pumps make a massive difference to the heating and cooling of any electric vehicle, and it also dictates how much range you get. The Tesla one found in the Model 3 is probably the best out there, to be funny. I'm not just saying this because I've got a Tesla top on, it's just the fact of it. The Nissan Leaf one wasn't as nowhere near as complex and as light and as small and as compact as the Tesla one is now. But Nissan were on point to actually put a heat pump in the very early Nissan Leafs. We've had 4 cars, as you know, and the 2 cars that didn't have heat pumps were the Seat Me, which we've still got now, and also, believe it or not, very surprisingly, the BMW i3. I thought that would have had a heat pump, but no, they were optional, and I think it made a difference of a couple of £1,000 to get the heat pump as fitted in and ready to go. A bit of a flaw really for BMW to actually charge you as an option and an extra, because that thing really did need a heat pump fitted. So with that i3, if we had say 70 mile left in it on the range and we turn the heater on, it would go down to around 55 mile. So you know, that 15 mile is a big thing when you've got a small battery EV. The Tesla, don't even see it, don't even feel any difference at all, obviously, because it's got a brilliant heat pump. Same as the wife's little Seat Me. We do see a big difference in that, especially in the winter. You put your heating on and you can lose 15-20% of your range. If you're going to buy an EV, buy one with a heat pump. Okay, this brings us on to the 2 major gains that I've seen by moving on to EVs and off ICE cars. Now, don't forget, I had over 4 decades of ICE, from big V8s to small 4-pots to basically everything, you know, from limousines, RVs, been there, done it. So I've got to look at this as a gain over what I had, the speed, the expense, the smells, the noise and everything else. And I think the first one that obviously comes to mind straight away as an advantage over ICE is that I do 90% of my fueling up at home. Now, as an ICE owner, you can't fuel up at home. The nearest you'll get is to have a gallon of fuel in your trunk or whatever, or in your shed, and you put it in if you fall short. It ain't the same as having an EV. So massive bonus to me is that I can come home anytime. Takes me 30 seconds to 45 seconds to plug a lead in, get in my house and let it do its thing as I'm sleeping, drinking, you know, eating, socializing, whatever. So that's number 1, massive for me, that. Now, I would say my number 2 gain is completing every mile, knowing that the people behind me in my car, in any village, any town, any city, any traffic jam, is breathing quality air, probably breathing worse air from their own car. One of the big draws to me of owning an EV is the fact that I'm not polluting the air quality where I am at that time using that vehicle. So every mile I do in front of you, in front of your kids, and in front of your grandma and your granddad, and every time I pass a school, you know, I am not polluting and giving those kids and those elderly people any problems with any of their respiratory part of their body, and I'm keeping my air clean from the back of my car. So I think that's number two, and I think that's a great thing. So all you EV owners should be very proud of that fact, that every mile you do, you're not polluting like every single mile that an ICE car owner does, i.e. from petrol and diesel, pollutes everywhere they go. Get behind a diesel, get behind a modern diesel even. You can smell it. You know, you can see the black dust and the black smoke coming out of diesels, and especially some of the older ones that, in my opinion, shouldn't be on the road now. And if they are on the road, should be paying a hell of a lot of tax. Road tax, VED. I passed that one in previous posts. Okay, I've got to be honest with this. This number one annoys me now, even at this stage. That was that black Tesla outside. Now, it was purely my choice, purely wrong timing by me. And before I go into this, I will say that all of my fossil fuel life, I've made money on cars. I wouldn't say I was a car dealer, I wasn't. I was a parts dealer. But at the same time, when you're buying a car for yourself, you put a few new parts on it and you sell it out, and every single one I basically made profit on over 40 odd years of ICE cars. So I've got to take that into consideration of my motoring history when I talk about this one outside. This was very expensive. My timing was very wrong. I wanted a Model 3 a year before I actually bought one, but at that time I didn't have the money. So I took it on myself to go out and buy an EV, and I bought a Tesla. Now, when I bought that Model 3, they were asking top money for them. There was a 10-month waiting list for a new one, so I thought, okay, I'll get out there and buy a 3-month-old one. I could get one instantly, straight away, and I wanted one, simple. So I paid top dollar stroke pound sterling. Now, I paid 47k for that, and that will never ever be that price again. You'll never find a Model 3 anywhere near that price. But don't forget, at that time, it was either a 10-month waiting list and pay 52.5k, or get one straight away at 3-month-old with about 3,000 miles on the clock for 47. I jumped for the 47. The thing is with that, I owned that car for 6 months, and then Elon Musk, bless him, knocked a massive £7,000 or £8,000 off the price of a new Model 3. So real bad timing by myself. And not only did I lose 8 grand overnight when he did this on a brand new one, because obviously the second hand market fell. Brand new one's now under 40k. There is a video on this called EV depreciation. And I do feel that Mr. Musk took most Tesla owners for a bit of a laugh and a joke when he dropped prices down 8 grand overnight. And that happened in the States as well as it did here. So that is my number one, and that's the most expensive EV I will ever buy. Now, a lot of you out there are thinking, wow, you've lost an awful lot of money. I don't know what it'd fetch now. I've no idea. Off the top of my head, I would like to still think it would fetch 30 or just under. It's only done 17,000 miles. It's in real good condition. I put loads of extras on it as well, as you well know. Oh, and that's an upcoming video of all my Tesla Model 3 extras that will be on here in around 2 or 3 weeks time, so look out for that one. So yeah, at the end of the day, from that 47k price that I paid to get 30 maybe back for it if I'm lucky, 31, I don't know what kind of money they're fetching. I'd like to think 30. If I could get 30 back for it, i.e. tomorrow, that's 17k down in 2 years. Now that seems an awful amount of massive loss, but it isn't a loss. One, I've still got the car. 2, I'm still using it. And 3, I'm getting 2/3 of the price back. But you've got to look at that 17k and realise that 8 of that was down to Mr. Musk. So I've only actually, the car itself has actually only lost 9k in 2/2.25 years. Everything loses, car prices lose. If I bought a big BMW diesel 2 years ago for 65,000, that thing would be fetching about 30k now. It's the same as if I'd have bought a Range Rover 2.5 years ago at £80,000. Those things you can get for 40,000 now. So there are far bigger losses on more cars out there than my little black Tesla. So it ain't just EVs losing money. So yeah, that's the number one really. That was the expensive one that, you know, again, totally down to me. No regrets whatsoever. And that's brings it down to the final one. Naught. I have no regrets of anything that EV land has thrown at me. In fact, overall, I do believe I'm better off now over the last 5 years, if I take everything into consideration, than I would have been with an ICE car. So that kind of puts it all together, really. I hope you've enjoyed this one. It was just my take on my 5 years and 4 cars and blah, 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 to kind of give you an aspect of what you're going to get. Things are very, very weird at the moment. The EV market is coming down in price all the time, which is great because it gives people the chance of getting an EV when they couldn't afford one before. So it makes the EV market a fantastic opportunity. Why would you go out and spend 30k on an ICE car now when you can get a superb EV for 25? Just saying. Don't hesitate about buying an EV. Do not listen to any of the idiots on YouTube or TikTok going on about, oh, buy yourself an old car at 20 years old and run that, it's cleaner and greener. No, they're not, because they're polluting every mile. Subscribe if you've not. Thanks for watching.